Attorney General Eric Holder has got a lot on his plate. Bipartisan pressure to prosecute WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, deciding where to try 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, just to name a couple. So why exactly did he hop on a plane to Switzerland this week to help the United States win the right to host soccer's World Cup, an effort that, by the way, was not successful? Richard Socarides is a former special assistant to President Clinton and a Democratic strategist. So now Holder's taking heat for spending Tuesday, Wednesday this week going over to Zurich to hobnob with the World Cup rich and famous instead of working on WikiLeaks, KSM, the drug war we have with the Mexican, down in Mexico, the drug cartels, the Oregon would-be bomber, any number of things. And the question is, why would we send our Attorney General for this?
Well, he's got a big team, right? I mean, so we know that there were certainly very smart people in the Justice Department working on all of those issues, and he is a senior member of the President's cabinet. I mean, listen, I worked with Eric Holder during the Clinton administration when he was Deputy Attorney General under Janet Reno, and he's a good guy, smart, about as good for this job as you could get, except that he's not very political, and there were all those missteps at the very beginning of the administration. There was stuff around Gitmo and all kinds of things. They didn't want to put him on any of the Sunday shows, and there were reports that Rahm Emanuel, who thought that he maybe should be one of the first cabinet members to go, but now we see that Rahm is gone, and he's still there. It's probably because of his very close relationship with the president.
Okay, but that's all well and good to be President Obama's friend, but since when? I guess you're a lawyer, you advocate,
right.
But it's an odd choice, separate and apart from whether he should have gone in the midst of all these things that's happening.
Of course, they say there are national security issues. You want to assure the people making the selection.
Why send Janet Napolitano?
You can send Janet Napolitano, but maybe Janet Napolitano was busy doing something else. I mean, it is not uncommon for members of the cabinet to, when you want to send an important person on behalf of the president,
in the midst of the WikiLeaks thing, I mean, we just saw him hold a major press conference, talking about how serious this is, how they're going to go after this guy, they're investigating every possibility, right when I get back from Zurich.
I will admit that the timing seems a little off, but in general, it's not a totally strange thing to do. I mean, look, the last President Bush had as his Attorney Generals very political figures, right? Gonzalez and Ashcroft before that. And of course,
Did he ever send them anywhere?
I am sure he sent them.
Down to the basement.
I'm sure he sent them to a lot of places, to the woodshed, right? Remember that? But I mean, President Kennedy had Robert F. Kennedy as his Attorney General. So the Attorney General often plays a very important political and cabinet role for the president. This Attorney General and this president, this Attorney General has seemed to say, I'm going to be the chief law enforcement officer, so it is a little strange for him to
Meantime,
go.
we didn't win. So Russia's going to get the World Cup in 2018, and Qatar is going to get it for 2022.
I have something really strange to tell you about this.
What's that?
They say that money was involved in these things.
Oh, you're telling me that Qatar may have, greased the wheels a little?
They say that it's possible that money was involved.
Really? And do you know that, by the way...
Especially perhaps with Russia.
The average temperature... Oh, Russia, say it ain't so. But the average temperature there in the summer is 120 degrees, or 104, and it can reach up to 120.
I hear it's a
and yet they're going to get the World Cup, and by the way, they don't allow alcohol? You're telling me all these fans are going to go there, and they're not going to be able to drink, and it's going to be 120 degrees? And they prefer that over the United States of America?
Listen, in all seriousness, right, when we don't get these international competitions, many people think that it is because we have no longer, that it's the end of American exceptionalism. There's this debate between liberals and conservatives.
Really?
Well, I think that many people think it's a sign of that. I mean, I don't think it's particularly a sign of that.
How is it a sign of that? President Obama's, doesn't Europe love him? Doesn't the world love him? You can talk about his approval ratings here in the United States, but isn't that one of his main things?
But the notion being that, we are either one nation among equals or we are one nation first among equals. I mean, that's the debate. And when we invest all this time and resources and presidential capital and cabinet-level capital in trying to get these competitions, a lot of people hope that we get them.
Well, yeah, because President Obama failed in getting the Olympics when he wanted them in Chicago. He failed in that effort.
Right.
And we sent over Bill Clinton and actor Morgan Freeman. You would think that would be enough to seal the deal.
Certainly, Bill Clinton could get anything he wants, right?
Well, you used to work with him. You tell me, is that the case?
Now, can I tell you another thing? When I heard this morning that we were going to talk about Eric Holder, I thought to myself, I had just recently read a profile of Eric Holder somewhere in GQ magazine. And the person profiled next to Eric Holder in the very next article was someone you know.
Was it me?
Yes, it was you. Here is James Franco on the cover of GQ. Here is Eric Holder in the very next part.
Yes.
And then There's someone else in there.
Yes, we were both at the same photo shoot together.
That's where I read that. Was he really there with you? I don't think that's true.
Well, let me tell you, Richard, that was a few months ago, but it's already a distant memory, if you know what I'm talking about. Richard Socarides, thank you.
Thank you for
Always a
having
pleasure,
me.
friend.
Talk to you later.